here. Thanks a lot for joining in. As promised, we are doing a global CX hangout here. So Ali Naseem, CEO Ephlux, and we've got a great panel with us. To make quick introductions, we've got Scott Constantini here from North Carolina, who mostly does the consumer electronics and home appliances market segment when it comes to Oracle Service Cloud from Oracle. We've got Patty here. She does a lot of solution consulting with regards to CX and more specifically Service Cloud. We've got JJ, Joanko Jerusalem from Singapore. He has a CX team all across the APAC region. So, and we have Syed Mazhar, who takes care of pre-sales and customer engagement for the CX customers on Ephlux side. So I'll just quickly hand over the mic to Scott to make a quick introduction of himself. Hey, Scott, over to you.
Good morning. So my name is Scott Costantini, and I am an account manager with Oracle. I cover the northeastern United States and several consumer electronics and industrial customers who produce a variety of complex systems that are involved with Internet of Things. I've been with Oracle about 3 years, representing the CX platform.
Thanks, Scott. Patty, would you like to take over?
Absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon. Patty Guerrero. I am a senior sales consulting manager, Enterprise East, so I actually cover Scott. I've been with Oracle Service Cloud. I came in with the acquisition. I've been here almost 14 years.
JJ, over to you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. So I'm Juancho Jerusalem, based in Singapore. I lead the CX team for Oracle Direct across ASEAN and SAGE. SAGE stands for South Asia Growing Economies, which includes obviously Pakistan and countries like Sri Lanka. So I've been in Oracle for 7 years, most of it in Australia. It's only at the beginning of our financial year in June that I've moved to Singapore and was tasked to handle CX for ASEAN. Great to have you all. Thank you.
Hey, Syed, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Syed Mazhar Hassan, and I am manager CX application at Ephlux, and I manage all the major accounts that Ephlux has in customer experience industry and especially in consumer electronics area. And I'm here with Ephlux for 2 years.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your nice introductions. Just so that everybody is with me, we'll just outline the agenda that we're following today. The main topic, as you all know, is the modern service experience for the consumer retail, electronics, and home appliances. The key topics we're going to cover: why do we need a modern service experience? How can the customer expectations be understood from a pure outside-in approach? And what customer journey mapping can help in doing that? Some examples around customer expectations and how they've changed, especially on the consumer retail side, and a bit of home appliances as well. Some insights that each one of us will share in regards to the respective markets that we operate in, and what are the differences between them. What would be a typical customer experience architecture be like for an enhanced customer journey across the different touch points and channels. We'll also discuss quickly how the IoT is changing the game when it comes to the customer servicing side of things, especially in the cross-channel environment. And finally, we are going to discuss some ideas and advice for companies who are starting out on this journey. So we'll start out with the key question to set the context. Why in the world do we need a modern service experience? What really has changed? Patty, can we have your input on that to start out?
Absolutely. So the change, sorry, and the need for this modern service experience is that the customer's expectations have changed so dramatically about how they want to interact with companies. They want to use every channel available to them. They expect you, no matter what market you're in, to provide them with that premier service. And with the freedom of choice today here in the States, they can pick, between Amazon.com. I mean, you can have a new device at your door in the next day. So even with electronics, and depending on the price point, they can hop between those relationships, and those relationships get tighter when you're locked in for that year. But where the market's more open, the competitive landscape is just dramatic. The millennials, the new folks coming in. I mean, I've traveled in Asia. Everyone's on mobile devices. They expect a mobile to be very reactive to them, and so to compete today, it's a necessity.
Thanks a lot for that, Patty. Scott, would you like to join in on this?
Yeah, I think that the other thing that that's happened in the last several years is really the rise of consumer-generated media, and some of it's through social platforms. But whether you're on Yelp or product reviews like CNET or, as you mentioned, Amazon, the consumers now have a voice, and part of customer experience is listening and managing that, both from a reactive and a proactive standpoint. So we need to listen and engage our customers in the channels that they are coming from, and manage their situations appropriately.
JJ, what would be your thoughts on this?
Yeah, great question. I think through the years, more initiative even before they buy or invest in any electronic products. I mean, 10 years ago, the only place, or if I needed a brand new TV or a brand new phone, I would go direct to a shop. But nowadays, even before you do that, you do a lot.
I think we're having some trouble listening to you, JJ.
Do you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was about, and I'll cut it shorter this time. Consumers now are more enabled in the sense that they do a lot more research online before they buy any electronic products. Here, when needed any particular electronic products, the only place I go to would be a retail decision. But now, before you do that, there's a lot of things that that consumers do, right? Be it on television or online, mostly online, and it's really something that's changed quite dramatically in the past couple of years.
Got it. Okay. Right. So I think we gathered most of what you said. Your main focus was on the customers do a lot of research and price comparisons across different websites online. You got to be present online on the web as well as other channels where the customers do their research on. So the next topic is, how can the customer expectations be understood by the brand from a pure outside-in approach, and how does the customer journey mapping help with that? So, Scott?
Well, one of the things that's always a challenge, especially in consumer electronics, is that it's a B2B2C marketplace. So a lot of these electronics manufacturers don't have an intimate relationship with their customers like you do in a traditional market. I sell you a product like cable services. I know who you are, and I have that information. And in a consumer electronics, they're selling through a third party, a Best Buy, Staples, and Amazon. So these companies don't understand or have an intimate relationship with their customers from the beginning. And so what they need to do is use a technique like journey mapping and try and change their view and walk through the customer's experience and what's happening, and understand those pain points and potential snags, so that they can create that better experience and understand their customer, and then create the situation that they want to.
Okay. Patty, would you like to shed some light on that?
Yeah, Scott is right on there that the transfer of the B2B to the C is hard to get in, but I found it within journey mapping. Some organizations have even brought in a customer to understand that interaction, right? Because it's why not take advantage of knowing what your customer is actually doing if you actually go out and talk to them. Granted, surveys are interesting. The response rate is, still pretty low on them, but at least that feedback coming in, or if I could actually go out and get that information, the social media application, we talked about that earlier, is having a big effect on how these electronics manufacturers are figuring it out. We've got a couple, myself particular, Nikon, has had to change markets from selling to very professional consumers to doing more like myself, who has a camera that I still don't know how quite to use, but is to embrace me and service me as that customer. And so it's a bit of work for them. Journey mapping can help with that. We've also created other tools here at Oracle called what we call a CX assessment, or an evaluation, where we go in and help them model these experiences as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, so what I'm hearing is a typical challenge of a B2B2C, which is you don't always have the complete control of the last mile with the customer. And what most of these companies, especially the automobile sector, has a similar challenge, where they have a dealer network, and they need to make sure that every interaction that happens with the customer is done with the brand promise that they carry on their marketing side, right? Where the whole point comes in that you need to extend your arms out to the dealers and give them a great experience, and also the tools for them to give a great experience to the end customer as well. You got to connect the whole loop, provide the CRM, which is B2B2C enabled, as you guys said. Cross-channel is a must, anyways, irrespective of which model we're talking about. So I think you guys are spot on with regards to that, and that's exactly what the challenges we faced while working with some of the home appliances and consumer electronics customers, especially when it comes to product registration, building a loyalty program which is controlled by you, and a bad experience that happens at the dealer side. How do you take care of that, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, Oli, you're exactly right, because what we're trying to do with any solution that's presented is map it back to the business goals, and every company has a revenue goal that they're trying to hit, and so gathering the information from the customer interactions on the service side that, as you say, are then used in loyalty, are then used in other marketing and cross-selling opportunities, is typically the only interaction is a service interaction that these consumer electronics companies have directly with their consumers.
Exactly, and that ends up in a very reactive sort of approach, because the first time the customer is actually calling in is when they have an issue, which is not a really great place to start out, right? So the key challenge is, as we said, that if you can proactively register the customer, understand the customer, and then make them loyal through those interventions, as I like to call them, proactive interventions, not only the point when they are all mad and calling the call center to report an issue. So I think that's exactly where the innovation needs to happen. And I guess there's where the connected appliances with IoT kind of fill in the gap also. JJ, is that something you're hearing as well? Or
yeah, absolutely. I'd like to add, this is where tools like social commit, so that different companies would be able to react positively if someone's actually making negative noises through Facebook or Twitter, right? So yeah, definitely. I think in Asia, where I come from, especially in the growing economies, it's not maybe as prevalent as the more mature areas in Australia or the US. It's really something that we need to be cautious about.
Okay. So the other point that I wanted to cover with regards to this point was, when you talk about the outside-in approach, you have to let go a lot of the old practices that you've been carrying when it comes to the customer support processes, right? So the way it actually works is you do the outside-in journey map. You clean the drawing board. You do the journey mapping first. Based on that, you re-engineer your business processes, and then comes the technology to enable those re-engineered customer-centric business processes, right? Most of the time, the companies try to put the cart before the horse, and that's where the problem starts coming in, because and it's not an easy job. It's very easy for us to say that as software consultants or change agents, from looking at it from the outside, but there's a lot of inside-out change that needs to happen. There's, starting from the executive, and then because you have to support whatever you've got today. You can't just say that this is our new cool, re-engineered process. So that transformation and then transition from the legacy process and legacy technology onto the cloud is what is the key sort of, transition that got to be made, I guess. So next would be some examples that you can that come to your mind with regards to a customer journey mapping exercise you were doing, and there was some exciting aha moment that you found with a customer. Patty, would you like to take that up?
So this is probably an area that I'm not quite as detailed in. I don't know if Scott has more there, but some of them that I've seen and understood, not ones I've participated in personally, but that moments where you're right, for the consumer piece, because of this setup of the B2B to C, is when that interaction starts where disconnects start to be evident, that they do not have either a specific channel offer that consumer is looking for, and some other aha moments that have come out are more so around where they didn't realize what the customer was expecting and comparing them to others. I don't know, Scott, I think you had a bit more examples in our practice run, I think, on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, there's going through and where the customer experience and the journey mapping work, and you get a chance to understand at different levels of an organization what's actually happening. One of it typically happens at some point, either in this or a CX assessment, as you were saying, where an executive makes a claim about a process we're having. Oh, this person calls in, we have this kind of interaction, and a couple of the knowledge workers in the call center typically, oh, that's really not how we do it. And so there's a disconnect, and they're learning what their situations are. We were sitting at one consumer electronics company and doing a CX assessment, and there was an amazing amount of paper that was at their station where people were making notes on the paper, and then and working through a situation, and then trying to maybe or maybe not posting that into the SR so that they there weren't appropriate notes within the system, or creating a package and handing it off to another person. So, getting everybody, all of the stakeholders in the room so they understand what's really happening, I think it's one of the key pieces that we get from the journey mapping, as well as that external view of trying to put yourself in a different perspective from the customer, what information is on the phone, or how am I being treated at different steps. So I think that there's a lot of that goes on.
I would like to share the similar thing that Scott was mentioning. We were discussing overall process with a customer who deals in consumer electronics industry, and the management briefed us a very detailed process, like how things are working. And the next day we visited their actual call center, and what we saw over there, they only talked about what the CRM part was doing. What they missed was there were 4 other systems working simultaneously, and the call center rep was switching between all those 4 systems, and whatever was happening on the other system was not being logged on the main CRM system. So anyone who uses CRM only will be only getting 25% of the actual environment or actual knowledge, and 75% of the knowledge was being missed out. So this was one of the things that we have also faced in one of our with one of our customers here in Pakistan. So yeah, it is pretty common everywhere, I think.
Yeah, the other thing that we're typically seeing in a lot of the journey mappings that happen is that as a provider, a service provider, or running a call center, you typically focus on your scripts and what you're doing and how you're the experience you're providing, and you miss out on maybe some environmental issues and what the customer's going through that may have nothing to do with your actual product or the script that you're writing. And so it could be the time of day, it could be bandwidth interactions, it could be the hours of service. It could be, questions, knowledge. It could be device experiences. So you really have to look at what's impacting the customer experience beyond what you typically think. What's my agent doing? What's my agent saying? Is my script right? And what are the colors right? What kind of frame of mind? Is there background noise? Is what's the customer having to do to get to your experience? And a lot of times that's that's important.
Interesting. So I think the next topic we need to take up is the typical customer experience architecture, and how do you reach to that, starting from the customer journey map, then the business process re-engineering part, and how the technology needs to be designed around that, especially given the fact that there's a lot of legacy stuff sitting out there on-prem in the data centers. So when you look at moving to the cloud, what would be the steps to go there? Here's something that I would like to add in. I'd like Mazhar to pitch in as well, from the integration perspective especially. So what we've seen most of the time, that you do the customer journey map, that's more like a futuristic view of where you want to be, and then you look at your technology, right? So most of the time what gets missed, or at least doesn't get enough time spent on, is the business process re-engineering part. So you kind of think that putting in the next best thing in terms of the cloud-based CRM, things would automatically start working, which is never a case, because you won't be sensitive to all the legacy processes that you have, all the legacy technology that you've got. As Mazhar just pointed out, that if the customer has 4 different systems that do not talk to each other, and if you just think that a cloud-based CRM would automatically solve that, that ain't going to happen unless you being sensitive to the right sort of integrations and this right set of steps in the roadmap to be able to do that change management. That starts from the top. Mostly it's the the C-level who needs to take the bull by the horn and say that, okay, make that concerted decision that we are going to take this initiative. Once that is done, the customer journey mapping exercise is an amazing exercise to get a complete outside-in view of, without any bias to what you've got today. So that's critical. Once you've completed that, the next point that basically comes in is where you need to re-engineer your business processes around the customer journey map. Identify what are the weak touch points that you've got. Map down your strategic objectives with the customer's experience assessment, or the CX value equation, as we like to call it. And then combine all 3-4 aspects together to identify which initiatives need to be taken first, which initiatives need to be taken second, and so on and so forth. Well, what that really helps doing is not just have a pie in the sky approach, but also the steps that you need to actually take to fly out and reach the cloud, right? So that transition path and the roadmap is critical. With one of our customers, we just recently did that sort of study, and we really found a lot of moments of truth in there as to where things need to head, and more importantly, how to get there. With all the legacies staying in there, how do you put in the roadmap? How do you put in those glue between the systems and then integrate that to the cloud so that the full value can be realized when it comes to the connected cross-channel CRM like Service Cloud is. Now, what I would like your input on this, Mazhar, is some of the integration architectures that we've come across while providing that sort of transition or a coexistence model.
Sure. So basically, usually when we go to the customer, most of them are running either no CRM at all, or they have some very old legacy CRM, which is not integrated with any other system. And the second thing is they have the ERP running in one silo, they have their warranty system running in another silo, and none of them are integrated. So the first thing that we recommend is to identify the common areas and integrate them, maybe using Integration Cloud or some other connectors and adapters that we have. In addition to that, there's another sin that is committed by many customers, and that is being too attached or emotionally attached to their processes. Whenever you go into a company and you want to improve or provide a better solution or improve like roadmap, they just think they just come up with, we have been doing it like this for 10 years, we don't want to change that because our employees are not interested in that. So, and this is where they lose all the advantage that they get after integrating all the system or by implementing the best in the CRM. If they are to attack their existing process, it is not gonna give them the benefit that they want. So this is something that has to be educated and has to be conveyed to the customers. And that first we have to integrate the system. We can always come up with coexisting scenario. You don't have to go 100% on cloud. You don't have to stay 100% on-prem. If you want to, you can. But it is like based on the features we have available in cloud technologies, you can pick the best of both worlds and move forward in a very positive way. So this is what I have been recommending to all of my contacts and customers that I'm coming
Okay.
across.
Right point taken, Mazhar there, and I think that's the key thing, right? Instead of rolling out the whole thing in one go, the important part is to have those quick wins going right away, right? If there is a process which is, as you said, the customer is emotionally attached with, maybe not start out with that. Maybe start out with the one that doesn't exist at all, right? And start showing those quick wins, and that's where the coexistence becomes the key. Things like the integration cloud and process cloud, uh, or any other middleware for that matter. If you can link up 2 or 3 use cases that did not exist at the customer and are critically required in today's marketplace, that kind of sets the momentum going, right? And then you can integrate more. Then you can integrate knowledge management and those other pieces together to create the wholesome experience over the couple of quarters, or a year, if you will. So starting out small, having the quick wins, and then going on to the path more aggressively is probably the way to go. The last topic today is the IoT, how the Internet of Things is really changing the game in regards to the proactive customer servicing. I'll share my quick thoughts, and then I'll have the panel discuss that as well. So what we've seen, especially over the past 6 months or so, that the IoT connected devices, if they can be connected to your CRM, and IoT can be used as another channel, just like your social and web and call center, contact center. If IoT, where the machine can directly speak to your CRM, can open up a lot of different possibilities. Especially the key point that we started out with, which is within the consumer electronics, it's very difficult to know your customer, and you have to depend on the dealer network mostly to tap into how things are going. If you can connect the device right with your CRM, a lot of that can be taken care of, because then you are communicating even without the customer having to communicate, right? You know how the devices, how the appliances are being used, under what conditions they are being used, what is the potential of them breaking down, and while they are under warranty, it makes all the sense to proactively resolve the issue, because that's going to keep the cost low, and at the same time, it's going to really wow the customer. The sort of care that you're showing proactively. Things breaking down, then you have a part replacement, you have your field force go in there. That's much costly. At the same time, no fun having your AC break down when the temperature is pretty high and waiting for the field service guy to come in. So we've worked a lot of the IoT in the past 6 months. We are working very closely with Oracle, the product management team at the IoT, as well as the Service Cloud product development team, whereby we are working out those use cases. We already have something going with one of our customers where we implemented Service Cloud for consumer electronics, whereby the engineering team on both sides are working on integrating the firmware that we've developed onto the device, because these sensors are already available in most of these devices. Right? All you need to do is create one chip, like a mini Arduino or a mini Raspberry Pi chip capability, and a firmware which can get the temperature data, pressure data, etc., and then pass it on to an IoT cloud. So we've done it with Samsung IoT cloud already. We are working on Oracle's IoT cloud as we speak, with Oracle very closely, and then we are routing it back to the service cloud. So the whole idea is that you are getting different alerts, and you can configure all those business alerts, those business within alerts on the IoT cloud side of it, so that automatically an incident can be created, automatically a service request can be scheduled, and so on and so forth. So we are very excited about that. I would love to hear how you guys feel the future is for IoT connected.
I agree with you, and I think that one of the things when we typically get into a sales cycle, or when you're running a call center and you're focusing on KPIs and your metrics, they're fairly segmented, and you can talk about things like first call resolution and internal metrics that help the company, and you can talk about customer satisfaction or net promoter score, things that that typically the consumers is concerned about. And IoT represents an opportunity for companies to actually mesh those. The same automation that you're talking about coming in and reducing my cost because the service request is automatically created from the machine's output, that reduces the cost, but it also is proactive and exceeds the customer expectation and makes you happy, because now I don't have to go and figure out my air conditioner's broken or my my electronics are acting up and then go and try and find and troubleshoot and everything. You can proactively get a message that says, hey, we are scheduling a field service rep to come out and take care of your device. So it really is benefiting both the consumers and the operating company with the automation that's happening. So I think it's a great piece that spans multiple different KPIs that you're trying to affect to manage your business.
Interesting. Patty, would you like to shed some thoughts on that before you? I think you're running out of time as well. So
thank you. Yes, absolutely. And so I think where IoT is changing up for customers is we expect everything to work. If we go back to when the telephone was invented, we pick it up and we expect a dial tone. And with consumers today, our devices, I plugged in a new webcam this morning, and for some reason my PC didn't go get the driver. I had to go get it. But my expectation was I should have plugged and played it, and it would just go. And we expect that of our TVs, of our DVD players. Everything is connected today because we can share from those devices to other services, social sites, and get connected. And so IoT is becoming a necessity for these consumer organizations. The network is there, the connectivity, the pathways, Service Cloud's ready to accept it with the APIs. It's just needing now to make everything connected, because the consumers, as I said, when I pick it up, I want it to work. I don't want to mess with finding firmware updates, drivers, and those kinds of things. It's really an exciting time. It's changing how service happens underneath the covers.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Patty, for that. And I think you can move on to your next meeting if you want. I'll have Jay discuss some of his thoughts on IoT connected services, especially in the Singapore market.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Yeah, I would like to have your thoughts on this as well, especially from the Singapore
yeah. Well, I think I represent not just the Singapore market, right, but all over ASEAN. I think whilst we sit in one particular region, I mean the market in Singapore is significantly different from Vietnam, from Indonesia, from the Philippines. But one thing that I've seen, particularly for service-oriented consumer companies, they do really start with the service standpoint, and then sort of once they've started their service hub and see proof points of wins internally, that's when they start looking at other facets of be it social cloud, sales cloud, even policy automation. So in my experience, I've had more exposure in retail execution. So with those companies, it's a bit different, right? So they may have their own ERP up and running, but they'll be looking more like at developing first their sales hub, so which is sales automation, before they venture out into, again, service and social. But if you would look at from a requirement perspective, it seems like that service, social, and sales are sort of intertwined, and it's just a matter of prioritizing which ones they would go first before the second or third requirement. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that. So I think we basically going to wrap up the discussion by the last quick point. Is there any advice that you would like to have for a customer who's on the edge looking to start out the customer experience venture? JJ, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I can start there, right? So I think it's very I mean there's a lot of vendors out there, but I think it's also important to find out a very experienced implementation partner who who cannot just implement the solution, but someone who particularly understands the ins and outs of a particular industry. So the way I've always operated, I mean, our solutions can be industry agnostic, but I tend to look into implementation partners or SIs who have good domain knowledge, and that's where it becomes more advantageous for the end user or the end customer, so that they will have the benefit of a really enhanced customer experience solution once the whole sort of integration project have been done.
Okay, appreciate that. Scott, any final words from you?
No, I agree with what was just said, and that the implementation partner is very, very important, because the technology and the solutions that Oracle provides, that are our customer service cloud and field service cloud, those things provide are pieces of the customer experience. And as we're talking about consumer electronics, there's logistics, there is integrations to the ERP, there are preventative maintenance, warranties, entitlements. There's a lot. It is a complex environment. So the system integrator needs to be able to understand all of those things. And now with IoT, you're talking about Java gateways and all these other pieces that are not strictly just a customer service application. So it touches a lot in the system integrators there. That's the other point that I think is that when you get into these, you do need a very strong executive sponsor, not just within the service organization, somebody who can affect either the marketing, the product development, or at least bring those other people to the table, because it's not just launching a chat in a call center and I have my call center agents to manage. The change management in the organization with IoT is a much larger endeavor, and you need a strong executive sponsor.
Thanks a lot for that. I would totally echo what you and JJ are saying on this. And for the companies, my message would be that yes, it might sound a bit overwhelming with regards to how much needs to be done, how complex this might sound. Having said that, once you have a partner who understands the bigger picture, at the same time knows how to take those baby steps required to get there, is going to be the key. So you've got to start out. You don't need to run right away. You've got to start crawling and walking and then run. So that's where you don't need to think that all the legacy that you've got is going to go away. It doesn't have to. If you have a partner that understands, as I said, the bigger picture, as well as knows that orchestration that is required between what you've already got and what you need, what is missing at this point, and be that sort of a bridge between your legacy as well as the cloud-based systems, this is going to be much easier than it might sound. And once you have those quick wins in the first quarter or month or 2 to 3 months, if you can roll out the key modules that are vertical specific and start getting the value out of them, that's where you can go deeper and create more integrations and more sort of campaigns and processes around the customer and take it from there. But you've got to have a good solid base, good solid platform, something like Service Cloud or a platform which lets you start on the right footing, instead of going the spaghetti way, right, where you just try to link everything together in-house. That's where it kind of becomes looking pretty scary and ends up being a disaster at the end of the day. So thanks a lot for tuning in for this wonderful Global CX Hangout we had, and thanks everybody for participating in. It was a pleasure speaking to all of you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Cheers.
Have a good day. Bye.